Just like the North Korean situation, there is another topic in Korea that the government and the media obsess over, but for some reason that the general population does not seem to care about. Let's explore that in this video. Hi lovely people, welcome to my channel. My name is Layla. On this channel, I talk about personal development, inner work, and my life in Korea. Korea has many problems, okay? One being how fast its society is aging. Today, I want to discuss why this is happening, the consequences, the remedies, and if, as a foreigner, it makes sense for you to see this country as the future. I've been living in Korea for 3 years and 5 months to be exact, as of today actually. I do not recall having conversations with friends, colleagues, or acquaintances about this topic. It's the same thing with what is going on with North Korea. It's one of those topics you hear about in the news and read about in the papers, but people in their everyday lives seem to have bigger fish to fry. A significant proportion of elderly people characterizes an aging society. South Korea has experienced rapid economic growth and modernization over the past few decades, which has led to improvements in healthcare, in nutrition, in the standard of living, the quality of life, etc. These improvements have obviously contributed to an increase in life expectancy, leading to a larger elderly population. But at the same time, South Korea has seen a decline in its birth rate. The phenomenon of an aging society is not unique to South Korea. I just want to point that out. It is a global demographic trend in many developed countries. However, the situation in Korea is quite alarming. Let's see, and let's look at some of the numbers. Since 2020, South Korea has experienced a continuous decline in its population. In 2023, the population reached 51.32 million, reflecting a 0.22% decline compared to 2022. Another thing I learned today that blew my mind was that South Korea's elderly population aged 70 and older outnumbered those in their 20s for the first time in 2023. Data compiled by the government shows that the number of people aged 70 and over total 6.32 millions at the end of 2023, surpassing the population in their 20s, which tallied at 6.32 million. On one hand, this situation reflects the success of the country's development and improvements in healthcare, and that is something to be acknowledged, that is something to be super proud of. We know why people are living longer, but why aren't people having children? There are several reasons I want to mention briefly in this video. We will not go in depth as each reason could easily have its own video. The Korea Research Institute for Human Settlements analyzed the country's birth rate patterns using data from Statistic Korea, and they found a correlation between the fertility rate and factors such as housing prices, rents, private education fees, economic growth, and the unemployment rate. Housing, which includes buying a house or renting a house, was the biggest factor preventing married couples from having their first, second, or third child. Now, Koreans do not like to rent. They prefer to buy their main residence, preferably an apartment. It gives them status and security. But because everyone wants to live in Seoul, the city is crowded, expensive, and competitive. Then you have private education coming in second. This might sound confusing for people outside of Korea, so let me briefly explain. Aside from school supply, uniforms, and other expenses, school in Korea is free. Okay? If your only concern is to educate your child, it won't cost you much. The issue is that parents believe that is not enough. In order for their kids to compete, to get the best opportunities in life, they need to be smarter, more knowledgeable, and great at taking tests. So those kids end up going to hagwon or private institution after class, and those places cost money. Depending on the subject, a parent can expect to spend easily 1 million Korean won per child per month. The burden of child rearing in Korea is a significant concern. Some of the key reasons are financial, which I mentioned earlier, but you also have gender roles. Traditional gender roles are still very prevalent in South Korean society, with women often expected to take on the majority of childcare responsibility. And that can discourage women from having more children, particularly if it impacts their career prospects. You also have long working hours, which leave a little time for couples to spend together or with their children. Then you have this work-life imbalance, which can discourage family planning, especially when there is a lack of family-friendly workplace policies such as parental leave or flexible work arrangement. Sometimes they are available, I'm not going to lie, but the company might not enforce them and people don't want to be looked down upon for taking advantage of the opportunities. Another thing that I've noticed recently is society reaction or response to kids. When you have a baby or a toddler, suddenly you become this persona non grata and no one wants you around. Some places in Seoul now blatantly display that they don't welcome kids inside. Parents feel super duper conscious and do their best to manage their kids in public so he or she doesn't attract attention. I remember this one woman apologizing profusely for her baby crying in the subway. I mean, this is normal. People, instead of minding their business and being on their phone, kept glancing at her. I mean, how stressful is that? No wonder I barely see women and toddlers out and about. But anyway, that's another story. There is also a decline in the marriage rate and a rise in the age at which people get married. Delayed marriage can lead to a shorter window for childbearing, which can contribute to lower birth rate. I think one of the challenges of making babies in Korea is the process. A few people talk about it, and with my foreigner's perspective, I'm able to see it from a different angle. Now, hear me out, and let me know what you think. In Korea, there is a very specific and acceptable way to go about having kids. There's one. You need to get married and be financially stable first. If you ask me, this sounds like a great advice. That's exactly the way I want to do it. The thing is, here, people are very rigid about it. Compromise is not accepted and deviation is frowned upon. If people had more freedom to go about having children, perhaps the birth rate wouldn't be so low. Let me explain. So in the US, where people are less conservative, it is very common to have kids after you get married. It's very common to have kids outside of wedlock. It's common to have single parent home, to have a kid by yourself because you feel like it, etc. In the Central African Republic, for example, which happens to be the third poorest country in the world in 2023, it is very common for people to have multiple children despite the dire economic prospects. People have kids and then they figure out how to feed them and how to raise them. This is why the birth rate is high and the population is so young. You see that dynamic in a lot of underdeveloped countries. I am not implying one way is better than the other. They all have pros and cons. I don't want to engage in value judgment. I'm just pointing out that not having this kind of mentality, aka let's have kids and figure it out later, or leeway, aka let's have kids whichever way we want, it makes it harder for Korea to maintain an acceptable birth rate. It raises concerns about the sustainability of the welfare system, the healthcare infrastructure, and the labor market. $290 billion. This is how much money the Korean government has spent on policies aimed at resolving the nation's birth crisis since 2006. But the fertility rate has continuously dropped, and now it is at 0.72 as of the end of 2023. The various policies and initiatives to address these challenges included pension reforms and measures to encourage families to have more children, but most have been, as you can see, ineffective. They tried to control the housing market, but that didn't stop the speculative bubble. They tried to come up with ideas to lessen the reliance of parents and students on private education, but guess how much money Koreans have spent on private education in 2023? A record spending of $19 billion. But let's put aside for a minute how the government is trying to influence its population to start making more babies. Let's veer off and ask ourselves the question, what's in it for us, the foreigners? In 2024, you guessed it, the government wants to find new ways to tackle the issue. Certain things caught my attention at the beginning of this year. For example, National Assembly Speaker Kim Jin-pyo mentioned the need to adopt new perspectives on immigration. He said, and I quote, "We need to change our perspectives on immigrants and Koreans living overseas and bring about a change to the existing system. And then 2 weeks ago, the Ministry of Justice announced a 5-year immigration policy plan to attract global talents such as outstanding researcher, international students, and skilled worker. That includes the workation visa that came out a week ago. There's also the implementation of a fast-track system to allow international students to work for industry facing labor shortage and acquire visas and residency easily, which I think is a great idea. The creation of a new immigration agency, and then the creation of more programs to help foreigners integrate into Korean society easily. The truth is that Korea will need foreigners to survive. It is inevitable. Managing the effects of an aging population is a complex task that requires careful planning and policy adjustments to ensure the well-being and economic stability of a nation. If you love Korea and are thinking about moving to Korea, the next couple of years might actually be a great time to come over. I have a feeling that this country will become more welcoming with more opportunities for you to grab if you position yourself strategically. So, what do you think of all of this? Do you feel like Korea is the future and it is a place full of opportunity that you want to potentially try out? Or do you feel like, I need to stay away from this mess? Personally, I did not wait for things to happen. I wanted to be here, so I took it upon myself to take a big risk, and it has paid off. I am currently on the right track to get my residency. That is my number one goal, and unless something absolutely amazing happens and take me away from Korea, I see my future here. Of course, Korea has many issues, but I love Seoul so much that I am willing to take the good and the bad, mix it together, and enjoy it. Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video until the end if you're still here. Yeah, we can talk about more issues that Korea has maybe in future videos. We'll see about that. We can also talk about the good things because there are a lot of good things in this country. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take very good care of yourselves, and you will see me in the next video. Bye.